Hello friends, and welcome to our Mob Psycho 100 Episode 10 review. I'm Silver.
And I'm Robo Oso.
This episode begins with Ishiguro, the leader, pumping up the troops. I noticed that they all look like fodder, and then he admits that they have no chance, confirming that they're just random lackeys.
Yep.
Then after the title sequence, we get to see the guards that have been looking after Kaido. They are playing a combination of Jenga cards. We see Mahjong tiles. These are some very bored guards who don't have much to do. They do have a very nice purple fridge. I appreciated that. We then get introduced to Gen-san, the drunken man who life has beaten down. He has apparently had a 20-year career as a lackey, and he basically seems like any other guy burnt out at a dead-end job. He really seemed like a Gintama character to me.
He did. He definitely did, yeah.
Yeah. And then these guards are just talking about their sort of lot in life and about how it sucks that they're lackeys and how they tried to go through the test to release and awaken their abilities. It didn't happen. He convinces them, or he explains to them rather, that it's just not going to work out. The lackeys do mention, however, that there is a kid from HQ who seems to have survived the testing. This appears to be unheard of, and they even doubt whether it's true. Gen-san says that nothing good ever comes from HQ and that they should ignore it. Ritsu sneaks in the middle of all this and basically just walks Kaido out. The guards finally notice, but Gen-san tells them not to attack, tells Ritsu just to leave. He explains that it's because Ritsu would have just crushed them because he could tell that he had psychic powers. They seem to be kind of sad to realize that this is their fate.
However, they become happy when he talks about, don't worry, even though you're helpless, when the revolution happens, when Claw, takes over the world more, we'll definitely, get our fair share. We'll, get some reward or something. And they're all happy thinking about that. Yeah,
they're basking in reflected glory. We then cut to Dimple. Dimple is, using his appearance to go undercover. He walks by a group of some of the, I guess, just the step up from the lackeys that we just saw. They actually have some abilities. They notice that he is acting suspiciously, and they attack him, but he is able to defeat them, so we get some sense that Dimple is capable, at least against very weak people.
And we both had the similar thought of, do they notice his red cheeks, or is this more for the audience? And it seems like it's more for the audience to know.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's just to remind you that Dimple is inhabiting that person. And then
I love how he says to that lackey that's all beat up, he goes, explain! And he explains how the room is this awakening experiments room.
Yeah, and it appears to be basically like a futuristic torture chamber. And they achieve their powers through pain. We've seen this frequently in other manga and American comics, the sort of torturing people until they develop some sort of mutation or a psychic ability. Or die.
Awakening. Yeah, or die.
Yeah, or die as a result of it. Dimple tells them they have a better chance of getting strength through bodybuilding, which is an implicit body improvement club reference, so I'll take it. Those guys are great. Then a creepy guy appears, one of the scars, Matsuo, and he says that he can immediately tell that Dimple is a spirit inhabiting a body, and he wants him, so that is kind of flattering, but creepy. We then cut back to Teru, who has been just destroying all of the low-level people.
And can I say, it looks like he's taken out, 50 or so guys to the point where they're literally just, kind of going above his feet, and you can't even see any clear space of ground anywhere. It's literally just all guys, a sea of guys, just defeated.
Yeah, it's like in a video game where if you fight waves of people all in one place, or if you played Skyrim or Fallout and you drag all the people into one place, or if you play Hitman and you drag all the people to one place, it was just kind of goofy.
Yeah, the bodies don't disappear. They're all, littered all over the place.
Yeah, and so he crushes the last guy because he doesn't know where Ritsu and the others are because they escaped. While he's leaving, one of them thinks he's wide open and tries to summon his pyrokinesis ability, which amounts to just a single flame, and Teru just crushes him.
It was so good! I love the animation, the way he hits the wall and his legs go in opposite directions. The animation they do for these guys when they simply get crushed is so funny.
Yep. And we get to see that was a very funny contrast because then Miyagawa shows up, who is a very powerful pyrokinesis user. And so this was a good sort of change because there's been a sort of a running joke in the series of really lame pyrokinesis, and so we finally get to see some very impressive fire abilities. However, Miyagawa just gets destroyed too. Teru thinks very quickly. He basically flips inside out his shield and wraps up Miyagawa inside of it, and I thought that was a very good way to defeat him, because I'm sitting there when I was watching this thinking, how is he not getting burned by his own flames? There seemed to be fire everywhere. How is he fine?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, he uses that to defeat him, which I thought was good.
And he almost killed him, too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he might be dead. I mean, that guy was horribly burned. So basically what I learned from this is that no matter how powerful you are, just don't use pyrokinesis in the Mob Psycho universe. You will either get embarrassed or destroyed. Just stick to telekinesis. The
idea is cool. When you carry it out, kind of, blows up in your face, so to speak.
Or literally.
Mm-hmm.
But then Teru runs into Sakurai, the guy who looks kind of like Sakamoto with a katana. Then another guy, Muraki, who sort of looks like a cross between a Dragon Ball Z character and Sigma from Mega Man X. It seems that they're about to defeat him. We then get before I say that, I just thought it was really odd that Sakurai mentions to Teru that he's stronger than he was at his age, but that he won't be as strong as he is 10 years later, which is sort of a cliche anime line, but it also doesn't quite make sense, because if Teru's stronger than you are, how would you know what he's going to do in 10 years? I guess what Sakurai's trying to imply is that you would never have worked as hard as I did to get to where I am, and that sort of thing.
Right,
but,
yeah.
How does he know?
Well, he doesn't. He's just, being the classic villain.
Yeah, he just wants to say something cool before his friend defeats Teru. He doesn't even do anything.
I mean, when you have a katana, you gotta say something cool, right?
Yeah, pretty much. We then get a jump cut from that to where Mob is, and he is in a dark room surrounded by creepy mannequins.
Oh, it's so cute the way he goes, konbanwa. Like, he's just so adorable, how he just says good evening to you, like, creepy artist mannequins.
Yeah, very polite, doesn't judge a mannequin by its,
Yeah, he's not even afraid. He's just like, hello, good evening.
Yeah. And we then see that the source of these dolls is a little girl named Makai, that she is hanging out in a gym with Tsuchiya, who is the really ripped gal, and she seems to mentor Makai, and Makai seems all excited. We then get to see what Ritsu's doing. Ritsu and the other kids are trying to leave. This other kid shows up, Sho. He looks like he's from Pokemon or something.
Yeah, or Digimon or something, and his lines are noticeably a lot cleaner and sharper than the other characters. Like that, I think is what makes...
his animation, yeah.
Yeah, his eyes stand out a lot more compared to everybody else.
Yeah, but he definitely has a very 90s look to him. And Ritsu notices that he isn't a Scar, so he then thinks, oh, I can relax, because he's not one of the top people. Now, you noticed something about him at this point that I overlooked.
So the thing about Sho that I think is he's the awakened kid that the lackeys were talking about in the beginning, about how there was a child who had survived this experiment at headquarters, when usually, nobody ever completes this. So I think he is the awakened kid that they were talking about in the beginning.
Yeah. Then we get to see what the leader's up to. Ishiguro is hanging out and watching this, and he says that Tsuchiya is incredibly strong, that she uses Qigong to harden her body and attack, and that she's one of the top fighters, and that if she loses this guy who looks kind of weird, Takeuchi is going to have to fight Mob. We then go back to Makai and Tsuchiya, and Makai's excited to try to fuck with Mob. She wants to attack him and manipulate him with the dolls. We kind of get her played up a bit because Tsuchiya's like, oh, I wouldn't want to get on her bad side. She's, she has an invincible army. And then she comes running back crying to Tsuchiya because Mob broke all of her dolls. Tsuchiya then vows vengeance and goes to attack Mob. Mob immediately calls her an old lady. She gets upset, uses her...
Just like, what? Really, Mob? After being so polite to the mannequins that look scarier, you're gonna call this woman an Obasan?
Well, Mob didn't mean it in an offensive way. He just, I guess, thought she was old. And so she uses her Qigong to harden her body. And again, this is another sort of technique we've seen a lot in anime and science fiction fantasy shows. And she starts beating up Mob. Mob seems to get pretty injured. He doesn't fall over, though, but he's bleeding. And we learn that the reason he isn't fighting back, he starts crying. She asks him why, and it's because he doesn't want to hurt women, because men who hurt women are the worst. Reigen's the best teacher there ever was.
And I also thought it was interesting, too, how his phone starts ringing in the middle of her kind of punching him, and that never is addressed, like, that's not brought up at all. She just goes, your phone's ringing, and then they go straight to, why are you crying?
Yeah, I also thought that was odd. I thought the phone was sort of a plot point that was going to get paid off or something.
Or like some, funny, like, part of a joke that was going to happen.
Maybe it'll get paid off later. Maybe it was literally like Reigen was calling him or something. I want to know where he was.
Probably, too.
So that could be what it was.
I just want to add, too, at this point, when she's really kind of punching Mob into the wall, the music that's playing is really good, and I started to really just respect the fact that all the different fights have these unique pieces of music that just really add to the whole kind of psychic abilities that are going on.
Yeah. Then from here, we go back to the Dimple versus Matsuo fight, and it appears that Matsuo somehow uses familiar spirits, and he gets them to fight for him. He beats up Dimple, but Dimple realizes that his spirits always return to him after he attacks, and he figures out this is because he needs them for defense, because Matsuo is weak. And so Dimple manages to trick him twice. He uses misdirection by leaving the body and then trying to go out the door. He gets his
Let's talk about that amazing fall that he does when he's running to him.
Yeah, he does this very funny kind of slapstick fall where, like, the strings have been cut on the mannequin, so to speak. They're all confused, and Dimple has, in his spirit form, just gone out through the door. So the two scary monster spirits then charge through the door, and they break through it, and they get stuck, which is confusing, because I thought that they could pass through solid matter. Them getting stuck is kind of odd to me. And then we find out that Dimple another misdirection, so there were two tricks. He is then behind Matsuo.
Somehow.
Yeah, but then Matsuo reveals that, well, he has lots of other spirits, and he takes out some really even much scarier ones, and Dimple seems kind of screwed.
It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah. And then we return to Mob, and Mob has off-screened Tsuchiya because he has such honor. He doesn't want to let the audience witness him hitting a woman. Takeuchi then realizes that he has to go out and fight Mob. He uses his Qigong to harden his face or some shit. I don't know what he was doing.
He literally puts on his game face.
Yep. Then we see that Teru is talking to Ishiguro, and he says that they're going to lose to Mob because they think so highly of themselves. This will get in the way, that they're not better than everybody, that they're abusing their abilities, and the other people, including Muraki, say, we are better than them, we are different, you can't argue about this. We cut back to Mob. Mob has instantly defeated Takeuchi, and he's walking down the hall, and then he comes upon Ritsu unconscious. It seems like a trap. Thinking back to when Ritsu was against Sho said that he might use Ritsu as bait to lure Mob, and that seems to be what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Mob is holding Ritsu and starting to kind of lose it. His, percent's going up as he's holding Ritsu, wondering why this happened to him. Mudo appears, tries a psychic attack on Mob. He shows him Ritsu dying, and it really upsets Mob. Mob starts to kind of lose control, flipping between 99% and 100%. Mob manages to flip the attack back, and both Mudo and Mob are knocked out. It is a double KO. Mm-hmm. We then go back to where Ishiguro...
Sho also comes out of the wall, which, we haven't really seen a lot of Sho's powers really yet. We've seen him kind of smash the floor and come out of the wall, so I just thought that was a nice touch. We're kind of just figuring out a little more about him in that one quick second.
Yeah, and it does show that, Muraki seemed to also come out of the wall, so it seems that the higher level psychics can kind of just move through matter. Yeah, we haven't seen what Sho can do yet, other than we know that he's very powerful, and that he's probably the person they were talking about earlier in the episode. Mm-hmm. We go back to the control room where Ishiguro is with all the other high-level people in Claw. We see that Matsuo has captured Dimple and put him in a poison jar. And so my theory, and probably what most of you were thinking, is that Dimple is definitely going to defeat all of the other spirits and become stronger, that this is going to end up working to his advantage.
Or it's going to be something comical, or he's going to get them all to ally with him, or something. Like, something silly is going to happen, I think.
Yeah, no, it'll be funny, but I definitely think that he's going to come out on top. And then we get the ending scene.
Amazing.
Yeah, the ending scene, we get the other kids escaping. They're about to get out of the facility, but it seems that someone really powerful showed up. They can all feel the strength of this person. Who do we see enter in? We see that it's Reigen.
I knew from the silhouette, like before you see him, I'm like, oh my god, it's Reigen.
We get to see Reigen, and the next episode is called Master Leader. So the Master Leader seems to be Reigen. He seems apologetic. It appears that he's super powerful, that he's been hiding it, so I'm sure we'll figure out what that is, but that was incredibly ridiculous, very surprising that that's turned out to be who the leader is. I definitely did not see that coming.
I didn't see it coming either, and I love when anime does the, like, a character you think has no real powers, or he has a little bit of powers, but he's, a good person, everything, but no, he actually has tons of power. And it's now this contrast where we're sort of going to be in Mob's shoes as well, just trying to figure out, like, well, why is he leading a group of people that are clearly more insane and kind of evil than he is, and what is his aim here?
Yeah, and why does he spend his days just massaging people and being a con man if he's super powerful? It's very odd, but I'm sure we're going to find all of that out next week. So, like the video if you like the video, subscribe for more anime and manga content. We're going to be doing every Mob Psycho episode from now on. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.